All right. Welcome back, sports fans, to the Week 4 review, Week 5 preview show. Joined by our usual co hosts, Mr. Colin Campbell Hampton III,
Hello, hello. Thank you, gentlemen. Thank you.
and our defending champ and resident Yankee fan, Mr. Cameron Cooper.
What's up, slime?
It's a fresh bill you got going on. Should we dive into last week's action?
Let's go right ahead.
We must,
First
unfortunately.
matchup between our host who missed last week, myself, and the man who so graciously stood in my place, Troy. Um, this one was interesting. It came down to Monday night. We had a bunch of guys playing on Monday night. I thought my season and week was screwed when my quarterback took out my wide receiver in the Chiefs game. And got negative points from the running back in that game as well. So combined 12 points from my three Chiefs was not what we were looking for. But Tony Pollard came through. Derrick Henry started the game with an 87-yard touchdown run and never looked back. And we got some good performances out of the rest of the team. And Troy, other than Nico Collins, just didn't really have anybody have a great week. Achan for the first time, I think, in his career, didn't score a touchdown. So that was enough for Troy to lose to me and the median.
Yeah, that was an unbelievable Monday night, really. He only scored 114 points, which doesn't usually get it done, but it seems like you shouldn't have won the game because King Henry doesn't show up in the first 4 weeks of the season, let alone the first half of the season, and he shows up one play into Monday Night Football. And then Pollard, I don't even know what to say. It's like it wasn't even like Pollard's that great. I mean, he had 22 carries for 88 yards, which is 4 yards a carry, which isn't that bad. But like Miami is in shambles right now. It's bad. I mean, it encompasses all the fan bases except for the Panthers right now. Like even Heat fans are like desperate for something to happen that isn't just a run it back situation. But this is fantasy football, so we'll keep it on the gridiron. It doesn't feel like you should have won this game and then you won by 20 points, and it's all because of King Henry. You got Jason Moody, a league member, as your kicker in this on your team, which is still mind-boggling to me. You shouldn't have won this game, but you did, and that's a true sign of a good coach right there. Unfortunately, the Fighting Mood Dangs didn't have enough. But you're a team to be reckoned with, that's for sure.
Yeah, especially if Derrick Henry's pumping on all cylinders. That Ravens offense looks like it's probably one of the best, if not the best in the league. Um, you definitely have some holes to fill for Rashee Rice, assumably out for the rest of the season. You have some other folks on your bench that'll be able to fill that void, but definitely curious to see how you kind of bounce back with that. With that big hole in your lineup now. Rashee Rice was actually probably on pace to be, one of the number one receivers in the league through the first 4 weeks, if not for that injury. Troy's slowly and quietly moving in the wrong direction. Started off the year pretty hot, 3-1, I think. He's been 0-4 of the last 2 weeks, including the median as well. Achan's definitely a testament to that. Doesn't really seem like a lot of players who had some hype in the beginning of the season are really taking off yet. Garrett Wilson being one of them. Joe Burrow still kind of getting off to a slow start. J.K. Dobbins comes back down to earth. Yeah, I want to see if Troy can turn it around. I mean, I think he has a lot of depth on his team, but he hasn't really put it together, all together during 1 week, with the exception of maybe week 2. But definitely curious to see how he turns it around. And you got to play your best when you're playing Big Nick Energy.
Speaking of Mr. Jason Moody, he unfortunately loses a nail biter to Johnny. This one also came down to Monday night, moves to 0-8 on the young season. A big hole for himself to climb out of here. Johnny on the back of 31 points from Kenneth Walker and another strong performance from Kamara, able to put away Johnny here for the dub. Or Jason here for the dub, I mean.
Yeah, that's tough. The 0-8 is back. We've been saying it the whole season. Jason, it's not looking good. It seems like he's active. It seems like he's doing what he can to try and change up what's going on. I mean, he splashed some money on Cam Akers, but that's not going to really change the course of your season. It's not like he has a bad team. It's just not good enough for this league, which I guess qualifies as a bad team. um, you know, he's got some injuries. Joe Mixon's out. Not playing all the best guys. Xavier Legette, he hadn't really done much, and then he kind of goes off there for 10 targets. Good win to scrape by for Johnny, but this is about Jason's team being yikes. It's a yikes situation for him.
Yeah, at least Jason put somebody who actually played in all the starter spots this week. This has to be deflating for that franchise over there and wherever Jason lives. Johnny was down by 40 points going into Monday night, and he got 31 from Kenneth Walker. He got 9 from JSN and 6 from Tyreek, which basically got him over the hump. I don't think Johnny was going into that game thinking he was going to win. He scraped by. And I think a win that Johnny desperately needed. Obviously, Jason needed it even more. But yeah, I mean, I don't know if people were keeping an eye on that game till the very end, but I'm glad Johnny got that win. These types of games you're going to need to win. You're going to look back and it could be the difference between, finishing 500 and finishing a game below 500, when the playoffs roll around. So this could be a big win for Johnny down the road.
I'm curious to see what happens to Tyreek the rest of the season. I mean, obviously losing to for most of the season so far has been problematic, but his snap percentage doesn't actually seem that high either. He's only played 75% of snaps one time so far this year. Like, that shouldn't be quarterback impacted, right? So, I mean, it's just this is his first round pick. I feel like it's hard to win in fantasy if your first round pick isn't performing. Ask Rob Masarofo about that one. And so if Tyreek doesn't turn it around, I think Johnny's going to be really struggling to make a deep run here. Next up, our last undefeated team has fallen and actually fallen out of first or second place as a result. The Hut Hawktuas suffer an 0-2 week at the hand of the random Joshes. Josh continuing his strong regular season performance. Jaden Daniels, or Joshdon Daniels, looking like a stud again, fantasy and regular NFL wise. And yeah, I mean, a good week throughout for Johnny, or for Josh's team here. Only a couple of guys not really performing. Not a bad week from Willie. Still scored over 100, but we talked about he's really going to live and die by the Bills' offense, and just wasn't able to get any production out of them this week. And that was finally the straw that broke the camel's back.
Yeah, he's been saying he was due for at least 2 weeks now. It finally hit. I mean, it's nearly impossible to go undefeated throughout a whole fantasy season. This was probably going to be his lowest week. But shout out to random Josh's. The 130 number seems to be the number to win you games. Jaden Daniels, Joshdon Daniels is a complete surprise. I know he was the second overall pick, maybe third overall pick, but I don't think anyone expected this. The Washington Commanders are a franchise that have not historically had fantastic quarterbacks. But this guy seems like the real deal. His head coach said after week 1 that he needs to start running the ball less. And I guess that means he's going to be passing the ball more, and he's throwing at 80% completion percentage, which is insane for a rookie, let alone for the Commanders. So shout out, I mean, props to him. You love getting that rookie quarterback in. I mean, if this was Dynasty, that's the steal of the draft by far. It might already be the steal of the draft because he got him in the 7th or something, he said. He's winning games 42-14 as a rookie quarterback. That's unbelievable. And then he's got Young Wei Koo scoring 20 points. Good win by Josh. Willie was due for a loss here as well, though.
Yeah, when you live and die by one specific team, albeit the Buffalo Bills are one of the more potent offenses in the whole league, when you have a bad week, you kind of live and die. You got to fall on your sword a little bit. testament to Josh's management skills, right? Brees Hall has a dud of a game, less than 3 points, still scores over 130 in this week. And he also had some pretty good, a little bit of depth on the bench too. I picked against Josh this week. It made me more out of spite than out of actual strategy. And he proved me wrong. I think Sleepers picked Willie to win by 9. Josh won by 30. So this could be potential playoff matchup down the road. And I think if Josh can harness some of this same prowess in the offs, he'll handily beat Willie again.
He even picked somebody up off waivers, started him, and Trey Tucker scored 12.9 points. So he has a bit of a I don't know, abundance of talent on his roster. He can kind of plug and play as he wishes, and he'll still win games by 30 points. That's always fun. That makes coaching a fantasy team fun when you can kind of, oh, let's try this guy out, and then it works out. That feels good.
Willie is still looking to recapture that week 1 magic for Isaiah Likely. Blew half his stack on Isaiah, who has yet to score 4 points since then. So that is looking like the early contender for biggest overspend on the waiver wire as well.
He's still a top 6 tight end though, which is
that says more about how little tight ends have done this year than it does about how good Isaiah Likely
very
is.
true. Tight end is weaker than it normally seems. It's always been weak, but it seems excessively weak this year for whatever. Who is the number 1 tight end?
Is it Bowers?
No, he's like 3 or 4. Let's see here. Leaders, tight end, Dallas Goedert.
There you go.
With 42 points. Kamara scored 41 points in 1 game this year. So
forget when I picked him, but it was pretty late. It was like week 12 or something. Or round 12.
Yeah.
All right, on to our high scoring matchup of the week. Cam, frustrated in the chat, about scoring 130 and continuing to pile up L's as a result. But he does beat the median to maintain his median of a season at 4-4. Eric, 160 points. Wowzers, just green up and down the board. Only Laporta Potty and until you get down to his kicker and defense had a bad performance, and that was only by a point relative to expectations. Cam just ran into a juggernaut this week, it seemed like.
Yeah, everybody, his whole squad went off. Even DeAndre Swift, who I think a lot of fantasy experts find him a little bit sus. Jaden Reed turning into one of a top 5 receiver in the league right now in terms of yards, which is kind of crazy. Kind of coming out of that Green Bay offense where I feel like if you have 4 number 1 receivers in that offense, you would have 0 number 1 receivers, and he's kind of turning into the actual number 1. Yeah, again, same thing I said last week. There's no such thing as moral victories in this game. But if I can go out there and score 130 points, regardless of win or loss, hopefully that gets me a median win. I'll exit week 1-1. But yeah, I've maintained that I'm afraid of Eric, especially in the playoffs. But this is just a week that I got outplayed by a better team.
Yeah, I don't think the median has ever reached 130. I think the max is 128. So that 130 mark, week in, week out, will get you at least 1-1 at the minimum. That's a playoff spot. This is a rare case where you do get the loss head to head with 130 points. But this was, I would say, this is Eric's breakout game. 160. That's always a big number, but he's kind of been lurking as, what is Eric's team legit? Is Eric's team kind of not going to have a strong week? And that's your strong week right there. That looks good. That feels good. I'm sure he feels much more confident going forward here. Just a strong showing from everybody. I like your point though about the Green Bay Packers receivers. Like, you would think that they got a lot of talent at receiver, so you could argue that anyone could be the wide receiver 1, which takes away the fact that maybe none of them are wide receiver 1s because they're all so good. And any one of them can be that one guy for the game, which I tend to stay away from. But I think you're right. Jaden Reed looks like the guy who can make the most plays. They have the most confidence with him to get him the ball and then make something happen. I believe Jaden Reed is that guy. And I wouldn't be surprised if he finishes top 10 receiver this season.
Yeah, the 2 games he's played with Jordan Love, 31 points and 23.5 points or 23.6 points. So Yeah, just crushing it with that love to read connection right now. Colin, you ran into a real tough team, second highest scoring team this week in Trevor. Trevor improves to 7-1 on the season. This was projected by Sleeper to be a high scoring, tight matchup. Trevor's team overperformed a bit. Your team underperformed a bit. Despite Jordan Love giving you 28 there at the top. Thoughts on this tough loss at the hands of the Singletaries?
Yeah, I mean, I knew it was happening. I texted you guys specifically in the middle of the second quarter saying, I don't even think I'm going to score 100 points this week. Jordan Love had already thrown 2 picks by then. And nobody was really making plays. Nobody was scoring touchdowns. Stephon Diggs got a rushing touchdown pretty early on. And I was like, okay, good job. Like, I need more from everybody else. I knew this was going to happen real early. So I kind of mentally prepared myself for a down week. My positive outlook stems from the fact that I am 4th in points for. So I'm scoring points. I'm averaging 126 points a game. I like that. But I'm also 1st in points against. So my defense is just letting touchdowns fly. Ain't no field goals against me right now. And I got to stiffen that up any way I can. But there isn't much I can do there. I just got to hope that my strength of schedule weakens. But I don't even feel like I've been playing. I mean, I've played Alex. I've played Rob. I've obviously played Trevor now. So I don't think, and I played you. Okay. So yeah, I don't see my strength of schedule weakening as I've played 2 of the worst teams so far. But I'm scoring points. So I think that's my only hope. I just got to outscore the highest scoring person each week, which is hard to do. I have confidence in my team. I am itching to make a move. I'll say that. So if you like a member of my team, definitely don't hesitate to just throw something my way. I will counter. Speaking to you, Cam, I will counter. Just give me some time. It's been a week and a half already, and it's only Wednesday. So I'll just say that it's a tough loss. 108, not looking good. Great job by all the Singletaries. When you got a whole family of Singletaries showing up, I mean, they're gonna make things happen. So a couple weeks ago, 114 was my low week, and now 108 is my low week. I'm hoping, I can only pray that this is my worst week of the season. But who knows? I'm still feeling positive. Definitely no panic meter. I'm 4-4. I'm okay.
And speaking of teams on the panic meter, we had our matchup of our 2 last place teams heading into this week. Rob pulls off not only the win, but also the win against the Median. Huge to get back to 2-6, salvage his hopes of maybe mounting a comeback here and reversing this dumpster fire. Anthony Richardson went down early in the game, but he's able to overcome that. Chuba Hubbard with a big game, 20 points there. Rob does enough. He gets 24 from the San Francisco defense. Wasn't pretty. Was actually predicted to be a lopsided affair in the opposite direction, and Rob pulls the stunner in the upset over the guy who's usually the one pulling those feats off against others in this league.
Yeah, good. Well done, Rob. I mean, the Niners defense has not looked like they have in the past. This is their first double-digit outing against my lovely bunch. And he's got the Florida kicker. I think he's always had a McPherson since he's been in the league. So that's a get your guy thing. I know Rob loves to get his guys. Not much to say here. Well done, Rob. Way to get your first win. I don't see a lot more wins for either one of these teams going forward.
Yeah, I mean, we talk about this every week, I feel like, with Alex's team, but having Murray and James Conner and then Bijan and Drake London, both of those teams, although the Falcons got the win, Arizona Cardinals offense played pretty poorly, even though they both scored. They both, James Conner was the only bright spot in that game. And then Falcons game, there's a defensive touchdown, kind of a struggle to get the offense going, especially for Bijan, who only got 7 carries for 28 yards. So it seems like Rob's doing his best to put together a team with duct tape and bubble gum amidst all the injuries on his team. And to be fair, he does have some depth, but he's got Sam Darnold, who's the number 4 quarterback in the league right now, 7th player overall. on his bench. So, he does have some depth there. I think Pacheco will be back in a couple weeks after surgery. You hope Devontae Smith comes back as well. Still up in the air about CMC as well, but his role player stepped up. Taysom Hill got 2 tutties. Looks like Michael Pittman, that trade with Troy might be working out a little bit, got almost 15 points.
Mm-hmm.
And then Chuba, while Jonathan Brooks is still out of the mix, is looking like, a bell cow back in Carolina. So I was making it work. He's still going to have to make some more moves, I think, but big win for him and his team.
I'll say this,
crazy.
just randomly. Miles Sanders had a run in that game, and he looked good. I was like, who is that? And it was Miles Sanders of all running backs. I don't even think he had that great of a game, but like there was just one run that stood out to me, and I couldn't believe it was Miles Sanders. Yeah, he finished with 6 points. I don't know why I'm shouting out Miles Sanders right now, but it was just one run, and I'm like, damn, who's that? And then it was him, and I was like, oh, that's kind of disappointing, but yeah.
Just another factoid on how bad tight ends have been. I mean, Taysom Hill, this was his first week scoring more than 4.1. He was also shut out week 3, and he's a top 15 tight end. So, like, arguably a TE1, in high TE2 range, and he's not even played 50% of snaps in any game so far yet this year. Only played 20% this week. So, really, really thin pickings at the tight end spot at the moment.
20 total points.
Yep. So that brings us to our standings, our review at the end of week 4. We're 1/3 of the way through the regular season, I believe. It's 12 weeks in our regular season, if I am not mistaken.
I think so.
Mm-hmm.
So, this is the third of the way there, Mark. We have 2 7-1 teams, 1 winless team, a bunch of good teams within a game or so of one another, packed right around that mid spot. It's going to be an interesting fight, as it always is, particularly for kind of, spots 5 through 8. I'll ask you this, how many teams at this stage do you think are locked into a playoff spot?
3. The top 3 right now might be locked in. I don't see Eric missing the playoffs, but like with his record, he's not locked in. Willie would have to take 2 head-to-head and 2 median losses in a row to get back to 500. I don't see that happening. And then you and Trevor have also some wiggle room as far as losing before you're back to 500. So I would say the top 3 are locks right now. I'll shine it, but I know it wasn't a shiner shit.
I'm going to say the top 2. Well, actually, I'll say the top 3, but one thing I wanted to draw attention to is that Trevor's team has been very good on offense. I think he's the 3rd or maybe the 3rd high scoring team, but he is by far the lowest points allowed, I think by probably about 100 points or maybe about 80 points next to Eric.
Yeah.
So I don't think Trevor's gotten the best shot from everybody that he's played so far, me being one of them in week 1. I think there are some teams like myself and Colin who have run into some buzzsaws so far this year. I think we both have 520 plus points scored against us this year, and we're both over 500 points for. I think there's going to be some moving around, but I think so far the top 3 teams are probably locked in, but we haven't seen the last of seeds 4 through 8 and movement around in there too. I think Troy's very much in the hunt, and we'll see about the bottom 3 people.
Yeah, that seems right to me. I would probably throw Eric into that category. But, stranger things have happened. All it takes is your quarterback running into your wide receiver, and suddenly you're scrambling for, guys on the waiver wire. So, locked in, I think, is probably too extreme for a 5-3 team at this point.
Mm-hmm. I'll even venture to guess that the bottom 3 are also locks for missing the playoffs. It would take a miracle for either one, any of those teams. I mean, Jason's out. I can 100% put money that he will not make the playoffs. Rob and Alex need a miracle for it to happen, but it is possible. So I would even say that the bottom three are also locks to not make it.
Oh, I mean, Alex always surprises some people at the end of the season. He starts the season really slow. He'll usually take down a top three seed by the end of the season in some form or fashion. So definitely think that he has at least one upset in him before the end of the season. Hopefully that'll be enough to get him in the offs.
I'm not gonna write Rob off yet. I mean, who knows if or when McCaffrey will play this year? But if he gets McCaffrey and Pacheco healthy, I mean, suddenly this roster looks real scary. You know, that if he can replace Zach Moss and Chuba Hubbard with those two guys, and suddenly Moss and Hubbard become like flex options for him, I mean, this is not a bad squad. You know,
No.
it's potentially a playoff worthy squad. I think it's just going to be a question of does he run out of real estate in the regular season before he's able to get healthy. But you know, you could see Rob ending the season 5-1 the last 3 weeks of the season, you know, to get back to 500 and get the 8 seed or something. You know, I'm not going to count him out, even if he's a few games off the pace, because he could really come roaring back at the end of the year.
Mm-hmm.
I got a question for you, Nick. I know you're an ETN fan. I just know that, I guess.
Yep.
What's going on with him? Why is Tank Bigsby seemingly either taking over this role, or I just heard when I was watching that game on Red Zone, that he was a healthy scratch, and ETN was a healthy scratch in the first quarter or something, and then Tank Bigsby, he didn't really have that big of a game, but it seemed like he was making all the plays. ETN didn't get back into the game until maybe later on or whatever. It didn't seem like it was injury related for ETN at the beginning of the game. So I'm just curious, do you have any insight in that backfield that maybe the rest of us may not have?
Yeah, I mean, it seems like the Jags believe in Bigsby and are giving him, you know, more of a shot this second year. I heard kind of coming out of camp that Bigsby had like a really good training camp and people were excited about him relative to ETN. So, you know, I feel like that noise has been kind of around the Jags all season, but still, I mean, ETN continues to perform relatively speaking, and he gets all the receiving work out of that backfield. And there's been a lot of receiving work to be had for the Jags because they've been trailing constantly. So,
Mm-hmm.
you know, I don't think the game script has been great for Bigsby to really like take over more of the work from ETN, but I do think, you know, Bigsby is kind of probably the future in the next year or two in that backfield, or at least that seems to be their hope, is that if he doesn't take over, that it goes more to a, you know, split carry situation.
Mm-hmm. I just found that interesting. Like even the commentators on the game were just confused by the fact that ETN was basically a first quarter sit. Like,
yeah, I didn't see that. That is interesting. I wonder.
yeah,
I
I
don't
don't
know
know.
if, yeah, I mean, sometimes I guess I'm just speculating, but like sometimes you see that for disciplinary reasons or something. I mean, who
Right.
knows? Maybe he
That's
was
true.
late, right? So I don't
Yeah.
know. Hard to say.
All right.
Any other thoughts on the standings or week 4? And then we could take a quick look at the waivers and talk week 5.
Let's do it.
I was definitely surprised Sermon went for 15. I guess I didn't get the news that Jonathan Taylor went down or is hurt or what the situation is. I saw that he was the number one trending guy. I thought that was interesting. But 15 even was surprising to me. So as Cam, you got him. So where's your thoughts at? Where's your head at?
Yeah, so Sleeper still actually shows JT having a projection of about 11 points this week. I follow a couple like fantasy physical therapy guys on Instagram, and I saw that he had a high ankle sprain at the end of that game. And I think it was in garbage time anyways. So, you know, the last drive of the game, he had some sort of re-aggravation of that high ankle sprain, not going on the IR. But I saw that he probably is going to be out for at least 1 week, if not 2. So then I was like, all right, I got to get out there and get Trey Sermon. But yeah, definitely a big blow, especially this week because Gibbs is actually on bye as well. So I'm gonna have to start Trey Sermon immediately from there, and then also Chase Brown. But glad to see that I got him. I wasn't sure if he was going to go for higher than that because I know running backs backups who have to slide into starting role usually go for pretty high. I was a little bit concerned that 15 wouldn't be enough, but I didn't really want to spend much more than that, so I'm glad that I got him.
Yeah, well proportioned there with bids of 10 and 13 that you just beat out. So that was smart money on your part. And Tucker Kraft, I think Tucker Kraft was dropped earlier this season. I forget by who.
Colin called him out in a previous podcast.
I don't know who he is. They have 4 wide receiver ones and they have 2 running back ones. So who the fuck is a tight end in the Green Bay offense, you know?
It seems to depend on the week, but
yeah.
Jason's willing to splash 15 to make it Tucker Kraft. So we'll see how that plays out. And another 15 on Justin Fields. Also beat Johnny out for that bid. It was Josh that bid on Tucker Kraft, but Johnny threw $1 out there for Justin Fields, and Jason beat him by 14. So two situations of going to get your guys there for Jason.
I like to see that. Money being spent's always a good thing, just generally for the economy. But also Jason making moves, getting some guys, seeing if something can stick on the wall there. I like effort, as a commissioner, but also as just like a coach in this league. Effort is what I want to see, and I'm seeing it. So that makes me feel good about where this league's at.
I was honestly pretty surprised nobody threw a bid on Justin Watson. I seem to be collecting Kansas City Chiefs at this point. I think it's my 4th on my roster since I didn't drop Rashee Rice yet. But I thought maybe someone else might put in a bid. Who knows who the wide receivers are going to be in this offense going forward, but it doesn't seem like it's just going to be feed Xavier Worthy. That doesn't, from like what Andy Reid's been saying and the way that they tend to run their offense, that doesn't seem to be the case. And Watson has kind of shown something in the past. Like he's been effective when he's gotten a shot, and he might be like the other focal point besides Worthy, getting a bunch of these targets. So, we'll see whether until Pacheco comes back, or if there's clarity on how long Rashee's going to be out, if it's going to be the whole year, et cetera. But I feel good that I got Justin Watson, but not good that I spent 11 when I could have spent 1 to do it. Hopefully he returns my trust in him here with some good weeks.
And he's a Penn guy.
There you go. Another Quaker. Quakers, no Quakers. Rob also making a wide receiver switch. Again, could have been a freebie, but $6 on Jordan Whittington. I just beat Colin for my defense here by $1, getting the Broncos.
Unbelievable.
In another league, but here got my guys for $1 more than Colin.
I saw that this morning when I woke. Like that's the first thing I check on Wednesday mornings is I check this. So it's like 6:01 a.m. Eastern time, and I'm seeing that, and I have to like triple, quadruple check to make sure that the bids that I saw were right. I wanted the Broncos defense more in this league, but I still bid less than the other league, and you get them. And I like almost threw my phone into the ceiling. Like, what the, so it's comical now that I've been removed from it for 12 plus hours. But at the time, I could not believe my eyes. I legitimately went back and forth between the 2 leagues like several times to just make sure that I was seeing what I was seeing. And then Cam, sorry, nuts. I'm gonna put you on blast real quick. You were talking up your kicker for 7 points earlier in this season, and you're dropping him for the guy who missed 2 kicks this week. This guy Narvison missed 2 field goals this week, and you're picking him up for $2 after you were on Bates's what for 7 points week 1. Thoughts? What are your thoughts?
I am curious why you picked up Narvison.
Well,
considering I want my team to cut him, I'm concerned for you that you just
well, I mean, I think that Bates has been limited by his the prowess of the offense that he plays with. Unfortunately, he's only really made, what is it, 2? Or I guess he made a couple field goals in week 1 and week 2, but he's been pretty limited, just extra points. I will probably try to pick him up later this season, but he's on a bye this week, so I had to drop him for that. I don't know. I believe in Narvison. I didn't know that he missed 2 field goals this week, but I believe
Including a
in
37-yarder that he doinked off the upright.
Hey, I have faith. I have faith. Okay, he looks like Zach Bryan, so that's the main reason, to be honest. So had to pick him up.
That's
I
fair.
would have thought you were gonna go for your namesake. The Jaguars kicker is named Cam Little. I would have thought you would have gone for him just for the Cam part. You can be Cam Big, and he was going to be Cam Little. But Braden Narvison, who the fuck?
Yeah, watch this space. That'll be an interesting one to see how he performs this week for Cam.
And then Johnny picked up Greg the leg and dropped Dicker the kicker. So
Wow,
true. Yeah, two of the better nicknames involved in that one for sure. Not much else. A few freebies, some more defenses and kickers changing teams in the post waiver wire action. Yeah, that was the waiver wire. Relatively quiet, although the dollar amounts were actually pretty high in terms of dollars spent for most of these guys. So not often that you see 4 above $10.
that's a fair point. We go like you expect all the money to be spent at the beginning and the end of the season. We're almost mid-season here, and there's a lot of money being thrown around. So, just interesting point there.
Yep. All right, on to week 5 matchups. I take on our last winless team, Jason. He's currently projected to beat me largely because I've got a bunch of injuries and a bunch of guys on bye. So it's going to be a ragtag bunch for me this week. We're throwing Watson right into the starting lineup. Hopefully he can perform. And we got Jaleel McLaughlin coming off the bench to make an appearance as well at the moment. So, we're going to be hoping that we can get some performances from some guys. Tyler Conklin's going to make his first appearance of the season for me. He's looked good at times, and he's also kind of disappeared at times. So currently projected to lose by sleeper. What do you guys think? What are your projections on this game?
Well, this is all you got. You don't have much on the bench as far as anything confident that you can throw in there. So you are, throwing your whole arsenal at the winless team here. That's got to feel a little shaky. Especially after Jason's been making these moves, Justin Fields coming off a hot game. Hopefully Joe Mixon comes back for him. Jalen Warren's the receiving back there. He's a little scat back that makes plays. I mean, if there's a week for Jason to have a good week, it would be this week. I could see it happening. I could see you not scoring really too much and Jason's guys just kind of hitting. I wouldn't be surprised if this was like Jason scores 115 and you're scoring 110 and he slides by you, I'm not picking Jason. I'm just saying I could see it. I could see that happening.
Yeah. I like the Justin Fields edition. I think we saw how well Lamar Jackson played against this Dallas defense 2 weeks ago. I'm not saying that Justin Fields and Lamar are the same, but I think they have similar skill sets. I think that could be a big addition this week, especially playing, against a weaker Nick team than we've seen in weeks past. It's hard to really have confidence in Jason's team, period, throughout the season. I still will take Nick with the win, but I think it's going to be close. And it'll come down to some of those Monday night games, probably with Pat Mahomes.
Yeah, I'm going to choose to believe in my guys. I think, maybe this is a week where nobody expects anything from the Chiefs. They just lost Rasheed. They're down some guys. And maybe this is the week where Pat kind of comes out and has a party on Monday Night Football. So I'm going to believe in my guys. I don't think the winner of this game beats the median. So I think it's probably going to be a 1-1 week for me and an 0-2 week for Jason. That's my projection. Next up, dead even split right now, 50-50 between 6-2 Willie Styles squad and J3. This is a tough one to pick. Two teams that are real good squads. It seems to always come down with Jason's team to how well do the Buffalo Bills play, and they've got Houston in a dome, as we've mentioned on the pod before. An important fact. I'm gonna say, give me Willie. I think the Bills will probably be in a shootout in that dome. And I think Willie's team gets it done.
Yeah, thank you for mentioning the dome activity. Love always shouting that out. That can't go unnoticed. That does play a factor. Dome activity, you just love to see it. You just love to be it. It's just
Post
it
dome
is.
clarity. Yeah.
Yeah, that post dome clarity really be hidden. But back to the facts here. Tyreek Hill is playing New England. And New England loves to claim that they're going to cover your best player and double team him, but he's going for 150. I'll say it right now. Tyreek Hill will have 150 yards. I don't care who the quarterback is. It could be your mother at quarterback, and he'll get 150 yards against us. I'll bet the over on that player prop right now. Give me Johnny. Give me Johnny.
Dang, I was looking at this lineup and Johnny's team, if you look at it top to bottom, each one of those players in this team has had at least one sort of baller game this year, at least with it in the core. Evan Ingram comes back. Dontavian Wicks had a pretty good game this past week in that Green Bay offense. I think that Johnny surprises folks this week. I think Willie scores above the median, but I think Johnny actually gets the victory here.
This matchup is basically the Bills against Houston and the Seahawks against the Giants. That's they both have three players, a quarterback, a running back, and a wide receiver for those teams going head to head. So, I would recommend you saddle up to a bar that's got those games on if you're Willie and Johnny here to watch and see what happens, because that's going to be the difference. Next up, we have last week's podcast participant, Troy, the Fighting Mudangs, taking on the random Joshes. Good quarterback battle here between Joe Burrow and Josh Daniels. Thoughts on who comes out of this one?
If Troy wins the head-to-head and the median, and Josh loses the head-to-head and the median, they will both be 5-5. For the sake of, balance in this league, equity, if you will, I can see that playing out. Achane, he should be having a good game against the New England Pattersons that are just not doing what they need to be doing. I'm going for the Mudangs for the sake of everyone being 5-5 after this week in this matchup.
Yeah, Troy's got a couple running backs on bye, and Monty and J.K. Dobbins. This is a pretty big rivalry game, I would say, between folks who are familiar with our league. There's been some beef between these two teams via trade talks over the last couple of years, playoff matchups over the last couple of years. I love seeing the lore that goes into this league with some people who have some bad blood between them. Even though Sleeper likes Troy, I'm going to go with Josh here. I think Josh and Daniels could obviously go off for 25. I think Breece Hall had a bad down week last week. I think he bounces back. I'm gonna have a hot take here. I think we see a Mark Andrews touchdown this week, which we have not really seen much of anything so far. He's had 6 catches through 4 games. I think we see a Mark Andrews touchdown, and I think that's the deciding factor in this game. I think Josh wins by around 6 because of Mark Andrews.
Wow.
Well, I'll tell you this. Josh is going to win the running back battle, but Troy will win the receiver battle. And that for me, that's the difference. Troy's running backs, he's literally starting 2 running backs, and neither one of them fill me with a lot of confidence this week. And then Josh is starting 3 receivers
and 4 running backs.
And all Josh's running backs do fill me with a lot of confidence. I think that's the difference. This is the receivers versus the running backs game. Who will show out?
Yeah,
think
I'm
it's a
gonna
tight
go
end
with the
game.
receivers. I'm gonna take Troy here. So I missed it. What was it?
No, so he said it's a running backs game, but I said you don't think it's a tight end game. I think I went the exact opposite. Sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off.
No, you're good. I'm gonna take the wide receivers here. I'm gonna go with Troy. I think even though he's got some backs on bye here, I believe in Troy's wide receivers. I think Xavier Worthy probably does play a bigger role this week. I think Achan probably gets it back on the rails. He has not looked the same without Tua in the backfield. But maybe this is the week where he kind of puts it all together. So give me Troy. Next up, we have Cam against Alex. Cam slight underdog according to Sleeper at the moment. That's always an interesting one. But Cam, how are you feeling about this matchup against one of the quieter members of the league?
Yeah, I'm nervous. I'm not sure. I think the difference will probably change a little bit throughout the rest of the week if JT's actually rule is out before Sunday. I think he will not play. I think Trey Sermon's going to get a higher projection once he finally sits. Not super excited that I have Gibbs out and Jonathan Taylor out, my two kind of workhorse running backs. Kind of putting in two guys who we've seen a little bit of Chase Brown over the last couple of weeks. He's slowly getting phased in as the RB1A in that offense. He had a pretty big week this last week, but a goose egg from Kyle Pitts this last week. I really need him to kind of at least show up to the game on Thursday night. Besides that, my receivers have been playing pretty well. Kicker questions, obviously, we just discussed, but I think that I'm going to score more points than Sleeper suggests that I will score. But then again, like I said, Alex always gets the best shot out of a lot of people. So I think I'm still going to win. I'm still going to pick my team, but I don't think I'm going to score more than the median this week.
Yeah, this is a tough one. I mean, Neighbors didn't even practice today, so you might have to sub another person in there, uh, which is tough. You got a few guys on your bench that I wouldn't love to start. I mean, Juwan Jennings, he had a 41-point game. That's that doesn't fill me with a lot of confidence if he's going to be your sub for Neighbors. I don't know what you're going to do there. I could see Alex pulling this one out, which would make both of you guys 4-6. Barring as long as the median does the same thing as the head-to-head matchup. Alex seems to be full strength, minus Calvin Ridley, but Calvin Ridley isn't really been making all his things happening. I could see Alex pulling this one out. I'm gonna go with all the underdogs this week. Just throw me over to Alex on this one.
I'm gonna go with Cam. I think this is probably the lowest scoring matchup this week is my bet, and yeah, maybe mine, but I'm gonna say this one's even lower scoring. I think Cam probably wins, but does not beat the median and continues to ride that 500 streak. Next up, we have one of our top teams against a team who is a self-proclaimed dumpster fire here. 7-1 against 2-6. Currently, 37% chance for Rob to win according to Sleeper. That's the lowest among teams this week. Anybody taking Rob in the upset? Colin, you said you were riding all the underdogs. Are you going to keep that rolling here?
Let me see if I can find some positivity here. I mean, he's got Darnold in as a top 4 quarterback, but Darnold is not a top 4 quarterback in my eyes. Waddle, who is he even this season? He's number 50 wide receiver. I mean, you're looking over at Trevor's team. Everybody seems to be doing well. Even Ramondre Stevenson, with all his fumbles, he's having a good season. Relatively. Yeah, there's not a lot of hope here for Rob, particularly in this one. I could see Trevor winning by 50. Most of Trevor's guys start at 1 o'clock or before that, so he'll have a lot of points right away. Yeah, this one's gonna be tough for Rob. I don't know if his winning streak continues. His 1 week winning streak does not continue after this one. I'm sorry, Rob.
Yeah, I'm gonna go Trevor too. Sleeper has Trevor as the highest projected scoring team this week. Doesn't look like he's impacted by buys too much, at least for week 5. I'm gonna go Trevor, and I think Rob loses the median as well.
I agree. I'll make it a sweep. I don't think this is a good matchup for Rob, so unfortunately, I'm going to pick Trevor in this one as well. And last but not least, Skip, your matchup against the Laporta Potties. You're on mute.
I will stick with the underdog here, as I've said with every matchup except for that Rob one. I'm averaging currently more points than Eric right now. I'm averaging 126. He's averaging 122 points per game. I'm looking at this now. You don't see it on your screen, but Eric's manager efficiency rating is 96.4%. That is unreal. If he's really, excuse me, making the decisions at that high level right now, props to him. I don't see that sustaining. And again, I'm averaging more points than him. So, I won my first week. I lost, then I won, then I lost. I'm due for a win this week, just based on trends there. Jordan Love can throw 3 interceptions and still get me 28 points. You love to see that. I am missing Saquon, and he's been my workhorse, the guy who can score me the most points on any given week. I got to throw in Rico Dowdle in there, but he's gaining some momentum as the lead guy there. I'm picking myself, obviously. I just think that I'm just gonna be going kind of this teeter totter week in, week out. I wish I got that Broncos defense because I'm not confident with the Packers right now. They seem to have a strong start, but they don't have their best corner, so that can change an entire scheme. So I'm picking myself, but I think this could be a tight one.
Yeah, I'm gonna go. I'm gonna go with Eric on this one. I don't think we see the absolute destruction that he put on me this past week. But I do like his core. I think Justin Jefferson's finding his groove. We saw CJ Stroud play his best game of the season this past week. Um, kind of getting the momentum moving. I'm gonna pick Eric. I think both teams score above the median, but I think Eric wins by a hair.
Yeah, I agree with you, Cam. I think this might be the highest scoring game this week in terms of total points, but I think Eric by 8 is my prediction.
Oh yeah.
He's either got to start the Patriots defense against Miami or the Dolphins defense against New England, and he's going with Dolphins as of right now. I'm surprised by that. I would have expected him to pick the Pattersons. But other than that, he's got nothing on his bench. He's throwing everything he's got, but it seems like it's a strong team. Like, I don't know if he would be playing anybody on his bench, except for Laporta Potty, who is having a Laporta Potty of a season. So it's almost his full strength versus me minus my best player. I think I can pull this one out. I'm confident I can pull this one out.
Any other thoughts here on week 5?
It's been a good overall season, just through a quarter of the actual regular season. I'd say it's high scoring. Maybe not that first week because it was touchdowns were down. But I think it's been a good season. There have been quite a bit of injuries, but none of the superstar players have been injured, I would say, barring Christian McCaffrey. Sorry, Rob. But good start to the season. I think the league, while there might be some division between a 7-1 team and an 0-8 team, I think the league is still pretty wide open. And my computer's about to die, so those are my final thoughts.
Yeah, definitely lower trade activity so far this year. I think we've only really seen one trade that's happened. Definitely excited to see, maybe some more trade talks happen. But besides that, yeah, we're still chugging along. I'm excited to see what Rob does to move some more pieces around.
I'll put in a plug if you haven't voted on the rule change for next year for the draft order changing to be your draft position order, to please message in the chat. I think we got to like 5 out of 12 people who said they were in favor of it. but obviously a few more would be good so we can make that an official rule. But I think that would make the draft more exciting moving forward. So
Agreed.
I'm in favor of it.
Agreed.
Cool. Well, with that, best of luck, guys, in week 5, and see you next week.
Go Yankees.
Yes, sir. Well done. Are they in the playoffs right now? Like, what's going on?
Yeah, they're the number 1 seed in the AL.
I thought they were okay. I don't follow baseball anymore. Ever since Moogie Betts went to the Dodgers, baseball has been, behind pickleball for me.
All right, I'm ending it there. Good stuff.
All right.